God has always something for you. A key for every problem, a light for every shadow, a relief for every sorrow, and a plan for every tomorrow. Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all back again to a new video from InfoZone Lecturette. Hoping that you guys are doing great. And if you are, so stay motivated and determined towards your ultimate goal. So, guys, in this section, we are going to talk about the foreign policy initiatives of India. Furthermore, in the video, we are going to look upon what is foreign policy, and we are going to divide the years, that's from 1947 to 2021, that how our foreign policy evolved, and furthermore, we are going to look upon the basic concepts of India's foreign policy, some of the major principles involved, and also we are going to lock our eyes upon the policy makers of India. And furthermore, we'll conclude the video, and so stay tuned with me till the end of the video to know more about the same. So let's get started. So initially, we are going to start with the definition of foreign policy. Basically, what is foreign policy? A state's foreign policy or an external policy is its objectives and activities in relation to its interaction with other states, unions, and other political entities, whether bilaterally or through multilateral platforms. This may include one-to-one talks or 2+2 dialogue meetings or meetings in various organizations. Further, specifically talking about India's foreign policy. The India's foreign policy has evolved from 1947 to the present date. If further we are to divide that how our foreign policy evolved from 1947 to 2021, this can be divided basically in the three categories, that is idealistic policy from 1947 to 1960. The second comes out to be the strategic realism policy from 1961 to 1990, and the third comes out to be the economic pragmatism from 1991 to 2021. In fact, when we talk about the idealistic approach from 1947 to 1960, we were basically based on morals and ethics. We respected the international laws, opposed war and violence. Basically, we were driven by the policies of non-violence and ahimsa. If we are to talk about the examples where we reflected the idealistic approach in the same regard, then the first one comes out to be the Kashmir issue. When basically this Kashmir issue came out, Jawaharlal Nehru took the same to United Nations, where it thought with the same idealistic notion that it would be solved in a racial manner. But the result is still in front of us. The second one is the Panchsheel Agreement, where we talked about non-interference in mutual matters. The third comes out to be the non-aligned movement. And next, further, we also oppose the colonialism, and we were basically anti-West and anti-colonialistic type. Basically, after the Kashmir issue, the real world was in front of us. Their real behavior, their assertiveness, especially talking about the Panchsheel Agreement, we had a treaty that we are not going to interfere in the internal matters. But basically, when we provided the refugee to Dalai Lama in 1959, so basically at that very moment, for our strategic realistic policy of foreign policy started. So basically, at that very moment we left that morals and ethics, and here everything revolved around the national interest. We looked the real people, their real behavior, and their real assertiveness. And further, this was a quote from US that there are no permanent friends and foes, there are only permanent interests. Now, especially talking about the strategic realistic policy that was basically started by Nehru, it was developed by Lal Bahadur Shastri, and it was taken to zenith by Indira Gandhi. Basically, when Lal Bahadur Shastri was Prime Minister, we took a strong stand against America and criticized their foreign policy that they were executing in Vietnam. And furthermore, talking about Indira Gandhi, The policies of Indira Gandhi were not only realistic and strategic at international level, but at the same time, they were strategic and realistic at the domestic level as well. Continuing the same strategic and realistic policy, we interfered in the Bangladesh Liberation War, particularly taking a hypothetical situation that if we haven't interfered in that war, in the present context, in the present era, we would have a possible chance that we would have faced a three front war situation, that is West Pakistan from the western side, China from the eastern side, and this East Pakistan would have posed a new front from the southeastern side. Now, further, we saw a evolution in our foreign policy. In 1991, we introduced the LPG reforms, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. We opened up our economy. Now, from here, we started the policy of economic pragmatism. Now, we understand the term what is economic, that is being related to money, related to capital. Now, what does the word means? Pragmatism means that means being more practical. So, basically, we became economically more practical. Now our national interest that revolved around economy, that revolved around development. Now talking about the famous example, I need not to tell you all, that is we have a trade with China, but simultaneously we are in conflict with them. We are having trade with Pakistan, but we are having conflict with them. Sometimes, though we are having friendship treaty with Nepal, we are having trade, and simultaneously we are having relations with them as well. Basically talking about every nation in the world at the present moment, they are all following this economic pragmatism, be it China, be it USA, be it Russia. Everything now just revolves around economy and national interest. Be very specific. National interest in terms of economy and development is a key for economic pragmatism. Now, I hope you guys have understood basically what was our idealistic approach, the idealistic policy of India, and then followed by the strategic and realistic policy, and then followed by it, which we are continuing in the present era as well, is economic pragmatism. Now, further, we are going to look upon the basic concepts or the basic key features of India's foreign policy. This includes that prevention of national interest. I need to tell you that be very specific that the foreign policy, that term, that revolves around national interest, be it any nation, their activities, the talks, everything that revolves around national interest. Remember, only the interest is permanent. There are no permanent friends or enemies. The second comes out to be the achievement of world peace, disarmament, fostering cordial relations with other nations, be it the neighborhoods or any other nation in the world. Then the next comes out to be solving conflicts by peaceful means. Always India has resorted to solving conflicts by bilateral talks. India doesn't prefer to involve the third party. Then next comes out to be the sovereignty and equality of all the nations. Next, independence of thought and action as per the principles of NAM, that is non-aligned movement. And next comes out to be the equality in conducting international relations. Now, since you guys have understood the basic features of India's foreign policy, now it's the time to look upon some major principles. The first one I'm going to talk about is the non-alignment. Basically, during the 1945 World War, there were two factions. The first, that is the West, and that was aligned towards the West, and the second was the USSR bloc. But basically, India at that very moment tried to remain neutral. They did not participate from any side. Now, when it comes to non-alignment, basically it means that we don't have a military promise with any other nation, but on the same hand, we can have bilateral relations, we can have economic relations as well. The second major principle, that is opposition to colonialism and imperialism. Basically, you all know that, guys. From 200 years, we were colonies of the British. We know the harshness, we faced it. and certainly we became very anti-colonialist. And in line with this opposition, we basically played a major role in liberating newly independent countries of Asia and many nations from Africa as well. Moving on and talking about the third, that is supporting United Nations in achieving world peace. Basically, we know that Indian troops always participated in UN peacekeeping missions, right? Be it the Congo 1961 or be it any other mission. Recently, a news came that Indian troops were awarded by UN for their contribution in the peacekeeping missions as well. The next is fairness of means. We were basically inspired by the ideas of Gandhi, and basically India emphasized that their means should not be used in resolution in international disputes. Now here in this particular principle we reflect our idealistic policy where we followed the morals, ethics, we respected the international laws, we oppose war and violence and aggression and power policies. And further, the Punchil Agreement is an outgrowth of this line of thinking as well. Now the next is that friendship with all the other nations. Now basically this is a outgrowth of the non-aligned movement. We are not committed to military alliances. India has always opted for a cultivated friendly relations with other nations in the world. Basically with this friendly relations we eyed upon the national development, the national interest. We locked eyes upon the bilateral agreements in the field of politics, economy, culture of science and technology. We basically were more focused on the development of the nation. Now, moving ahead and talking about the last major principle, that is the Panchsheel Agreement. We know, you know that we signed the Panchsheel Agreement with China in 1954. Basically, the principles of Panchsheel Agreement states that we have mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. We had mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. Now, I hope you guys are clear with what we have covered. What is foreign policy, the basic phases of India's foreign policy, the way it has evolved, the basic concepts of the foreign policy, some of the major principles that were involved. And now we are going to talk about the major policy makers. The first one is the PMO, that is the Prime Minister's Office. Basically, the role of Prime Minister's Office was strengthened during the era of Lal Bahadur Shastri. Basically, at that very moment, he focused on the realistic and strategic approach, and in the line with that, he condemned the US foreign policy in Vietnam, and with that, the PMO was given more powers and when it comes to the making of foreign policy. The second comes out to be the Ministry of External Affairs that deals with the matters related to India outside India, and the next is the India's Foreign Secretary, which is the head of ambassadors and high commissioners of India. Now here I have a question for you guys. What is the difference between an ambassador and a high commissioner? If you know the answer, please do comment it down below. I hope that you guys have understood all that I have covered in the video previously, be it what is foreign policy, the basic concepts of India's foreign policy, the major principles involved, and now we are going to conclude the video. So talking about the conclusion, India has followed certain basic principles in conduct of its foreign policy, from which it has not deviated much. In fact, some of its basic features still remain significant and relevant, be it the non-alignment of the movement, be it the demand for the world peace, be it solving the issues bilaterally, not involving the third party or anything. India has also significantly contributed to the United Nations for the world peace and disarmament and United Nations peacekeeping missions. Even as India is poised to become an economic superpower in the coming times, it has always and in future too will take necessary steps in future in terms of its national interest in every aspect. that is political, social, and economical. So, guys, that was all in the video. Hoping that you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, if you have any doubt or you didn't understood any concept in the video, please do comment it down below. I'll try my best to explain it. Also, if you want any video on any topic, please do comment it down. So, with that note, I take it off from you guys. See you in the next video. Till then, stay motivated, keep learning, stay safe, and stay happy. So, with that note, I take it off. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.